present the Ella Dickey Literacy Awards to honor longtime Marshfield librarian Ella Dickey, who of course devoted over 50 years of her life as our city's first librarian, investing in the future of Marshfield. And we honor her legacy by honoring 6 authors who have contributed to the pages of history. And we've seen some remarkable talent be honored with the Ella Dickey Literacy Awards. But it's become a tradition to hear from the voices of the children of Marshfield, which Miss Dickey would be so thrilled about, I believe. Dr. Dove, their director, does a fantastic job working with the Bluejay Singers each year, and we are so honored to have them begin our ceremony. If you would stand, we'll begin with the singing of our national anthem.
Thank you. You may be seated. So this is an auditioned after-school choir of 4th and 5th graders. So they meet once a week in practice. And we are doing 2 spring songs for you today because this is the Cherry Blossom Festival. We will start with Cherry Blossom and continue with On Wind, On Wing. And then we will have to head back to school real quick before the end of the day, when we thank you for inviting us again.
Let's give another round of applause for the Bluejay Singers. I always say when we hear from those voices, I always feel a little bit better that we're in good hands for our future. Great, and they have great leadership with that program for sure. Well, first I want to begin by asking those who are present who are former recipients of the Ella Dickey Literacy Award, if you would stand at this time to be recognized. Have a good gathering of former recipients today. To speak about our first honoree, I call forth two former recipients and two of her very dear and cherished friends. If you'd please put your hands together and welcome Cynthia Pepper and Mimi Gibson.
Thank you so much. Come on, honey. So I'm older than you. Oh, okay. I know we're honored. I'll just say this, to give this to our dear friend, and I'm going to get emotional, Beverly Washburn, and give her applause. She's sitting right here. She's going to say a few words. I know if you've read her book, or you're going to read her book, you'll get to find out what a wonderful family she had, ups and downs with her life like anyone, and a great career. And she had wonderful friends and still has wonderful friends. I can't list everything, but if you go on the computer, you'll find out all the wonderful things she's done. Her writing is wonderful. It's got a lot of joy and a lot of heart. And she kind of bears all, which is what we want. And on a personal note, Beverly, I want to say we've known each other for 63 years, about, and you're the sister I wish I had. And that's all I want to say. And congratulations, honey.
Dear Beverly, Beverly and I had a gap in our friendship. We last saw each other in our teens, and then we hooked up a couple years ago. And it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me. I'm so glad I found you, Beverly. I love you so much. Anyway, congratulations. You deserve this. And we love you.
Yes, we do. We're not emotional at all.
Sweetie heart, love you.
We're short. We're getting shorter. We used to be 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
Shrink as they get older. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm a mess now. This is my third year here, and 2 years ago, I had the honor and pleasure of giving and introducing my dear friend and sister, Cynthia Pepper, for this award. And then last year, I was asked to introduce and present the award to my other new sister and dear friend, Mimi Gibson. And I just want to say that this means so much to me. And you ladies, I love you both so much. And I'm so grateful. Friendship is so important. And I can't say enough about these two. They're like my besties. And so to get this from them means a lot. And to be here at the Cherry Blossom Festival, and thank you, Reverend Nick. This is truly an honor, and I will absolutely cherish and treasure this forever. I don't take this lightly. It means a lot to me, and I thank you all so very much from my heart.
Congratulations. Heartfelt words from three special ladies. Give them another round of applause. To speak about our next honoree, if you'd welcome to the stage, former recipient, William Anderson.
Nicholas, when I said, of course I'll come to the Cherry Blossom Festival this year, I didn't know you were going to work me so hard. But each one of these assignments is a joy, including the one this afternoon. Tina Cole lit up the networks, only 3 during a lot of our early baby boomer days, but she was on all of them, running from ABC, TV, on the King Family Variety Hour, right before Lawrence Welk, and then over to CBS for My 3 Sons, and innumerable guest appearances on other comedies and dramas and talk shows with the 4 King cousins. She is an icon of those years of television that I consider to be golden. Tina, through all those years of working so hard, had a great and wonderful family life, which she still does. And as you can imagine, she has a wealth of stories to tell. Her friends and admirers kept admonishing her, Tina, write a book. You've got to write down these tales that you've lived through. And Tina finally got busy. About 8 years ago, great things are not achieved quickly. The book, echoing My 3 Sons, her iconic role as Katie, the wife of Robbie, and the mother of triplets, which we can still watch on MTV today, has a really apt title, My 3 Lives, a memoir. Each page is a joy to read, and I'm so pleased to be able to gift Tina with a well-deserved award as a person, as someone we've loved on the tube, and now a first-time author. Tina, come back on stage, a familiar place. Tina has been on stages around the world, and I'm so happy that she's here today with us. Nicholas explained to you how significant the Ella Dickey Award is, and I'm honored as your friend to present this to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. And this is quite an honor. You said it all. I could not say anything additionally. And my family, King family, we've adopted Bill. For years, he's written all of our obituaries because he's such a good writer because we mess him up. But he was such a help to me, too. I'd call him and say, really, how do you do this? Because I can't write a grocery list. But I did tell my stories, and my girlfriends would call me, and they gave me a voice recorder. And they said, just tell your stories. So they would call and say, okay, tell me about this. And I would record it into the voice recorder, send the files to a friend in Los Angeles. She would type them up and send them back. And after 6 years, I guess, I had like 350 pages of, my cousin called them pearls. And he said, it's now time to weave them into a necklace, which I finally did. Thank you for your encouragement. And he's told me about the Cherry Festival for years, and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you so very much for this honor. I appreciate this. Thank you. Oh. Thank you, sir.
It looks well, Tina.
Yes, it matches.
Tina Cole and William Anderson. To speak about our next honoree, I call forth one of her friends as we jointly speak about our friend Wendy Lou Lee. Make welcome Pamela Rowlands. Surprise! Surprise!
Moments ago.
Well, how could you pass up having somebody like Pam help you?
Me either.
So, Wendy Lou Lee first visited the Cherry Blossom Festival, I would say, maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5 years. 2019, just the other day. And little did we know that when she first visited us, that she would soon become part of the fabric that we call Cherry Blossom. And she has a way of doing that. And I was so excited that we, as fans of Little House, were able to see her take all of her stories and experience and not only write one book, but now has written 2 books. And the second book, Red Tail Feathers, a memoir of so many things that she's experienced throughout her experiences of life, and especially with Little House. And I know that she's captivated your hearts as much as she has with us here at the Cherry Blossom Festival, but to know somebody from a book and know somebody as a colleague is a whole different thing. And so when I caught Pam when she walked in, she's just lit up like a Christmas tree and said, I want to share as well. So, your turn.
Thank you, Reverend Nick. I don't know how well you know Wendy. I don't even know if you know that she works with upholstery. She actually, well, not anymore, but she did. She can sew things, which is a big deal for someone like me. But I think, you know, the wonderful mystery of all of what people can do with their hands, with fabric and with thread, it's about the tapestry of what's in front of you, but the tapestry of our lives. And she has done a beautiful job of bringing me into this family. I mean, the truth is, we never got to work with each other on Little House on the Prairie because I just moved into her home and booted her right out, right? So she was gone, and we didn't have a chance to know each other until we started doing these events. And the minute I met her as an adult woman, I was very impressed at the love that comes from her heart, the gaze from her eyes that is right there with you, telling you, you're my friend, I want to get to know you. Then she becomes this amazing human being in your life who is your cheerleader no matter what. So if you don't know how to do anything, from technology to how to write something, she's encouraging you. Not if, but when my book gets finished, it will be because of Wendy. Because she is that person. She is everybody's cheerleader. A beautiful human being. I am so grateful to know you. We go on these trips so that we can have fun together. I don't know that I am, 100 years older than you are, because you don't make me feel that way. So I encourage you to read both of her incredible books if you have not read them already. They're so inspirational, so touching and moving about the real things of life, and to remind you that you are enough, you are important, you need to be here, and your story needs to be told as well. So, Wendy Luley. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say, for anybody that is an author in the room, we don't write because to get awards. We don't write even to make some money, because there's not a lot of money in writing books. But we write because we have something to share, and it's usually something very important to us. And most of the time, those stories are they're not easy to tell. So this is a hard work of writing, especially when you're telling your own story. And so for anybody in the room that is an author, we know how hard it is. And also for the readers in the room, because if we write our book and nobody reads it, then there's not really any point in that. So I came to Cherry Blossom in 2019, and I didn't think that I would be back so many times. And now I get to bring many more of my Little House friends. So thank you all so much. This is such an honor. And I don't know what else to say. See you next year. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
And I know that I want to mention this for most all of our guests. I know many of them have copies of their books with them. So if you have not had a chance to read their books, I know that they'll be excited for you to pick up a copy, visit with them about it, or if you've been reading it, to ask questions about it, and to engage you. And maybe it's encouraging to some of you to write your own stories. How many of you have a story? Everybody in the room, right? To speak about our next honoree, please welcome former Ella Dickey recipient Tim Plekovich. I have to say, it's really nice when we have so many former recipients here to get to bestow the honor on the next class of honorees. We gave you a workout tonight.
I'm sorry that I was sitting so far back, but coming from the other program,
You had to.
Yeah. Don't worry, folks, it's not going to be an elongated introduction. So I just wanted to echo the sentiments. Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to echo the sentiments of some of our previous winners, talking about their experiences in coming to the Cherry Blossom Festival. And when Dr. Larry Cook and I came for the very first times, I think it was Larry about 2017, maybe about 7 years ago. And I'm not sure about Larry, but I thought, sure, this would be fun to come to. I'll, do it once and, won't be back. Well, this is, I think, Nick, maybe my 6th festival. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I mean, how many speaking engagements can someone have where he looks out in the audience and he knows the names of most of the people in the audience by now? So, but I feel very, very fortunate to be here. And I say that especially because the host family that I'm with, Chuck and Carol Cooksey, if you know them, they've been nice enough to put me up the last couple of years. Carol is in charge of finding host families for different celebrities who come in. And so they were kind enough to do this for me. When Leslie Ann Warren, though, had to cancel a couple of days ago, there was a problem. Nick got on the phone. He called Morgan Fairchild. The problem was, though, Nick then called Carol Cooksey and said, we have to find a place for Carol or for Morgan to stay. And Chuck Cooksey said, well, we got the solution. That's no problem. She said, we'll just kick Tim out and she can sleep in my bed. So I'm very honored to have been chosen to introduce David Jerome to you today. Dr. David Jerome, by the way. He's worn many hats in his life. Wonderful gentleman. When Nicholas invited me to come over to interview Bill Verdon, the baseball legend from Southwest Missouri a couple of years ago, I was delighted with the opportunity. And the day before, had a chance at the luncheon that we used to have to be able to visit with Bill and his lovely wife, who just passed away a few weeks ago, Shirley. And so I had the opportunity to meet David at that same time. And it was absolutely wonderful meeting David. 2 minutes into the conversation, I said, this is the guy who needs to be on stage with us because he's fantastic. He knows much, much more about Bill Verdon than I ever would. And so that began our association a couple of years ago. And I'm so glad that it's lasted because I think of David, even though I've only known David for 3 years, I think of him as a true friend. The same way that I think of Bill Anderson as a real friend. So, Bill, thank you very, very much. Jenny Harville is someone else. Thank you very, very much. Calvin Coolidge's great-granddaughter. So let me go ahead and just read a brief bio about David, and then we can present the award to him. We have Linda Verdon Holmes, who is with us today, the daughter of Bill Verdon, and she will be actually presenting the award to David. David Jerome served 20 and a half years of active duty in the United States Army. David had also spent 3 years in the Missouri Army National Guard for a total of 23 and a half years of service. Upon his retirement from military service in 1999, David worked for engineering firms in Kansas City and Joplin. David, do you want me to read the whole thing? Okay, all right. He went on to complete a PhD in public policy from the University of Arkansas. He taught political science at the College of the Ozarks, Point Lookout, Missouri, the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville, Missouri Southern State University in Joplin, and Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville. He is currently serving as an adjunct professor at Mission University in Springfield, Missouri. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in marketing from the University of Central Missouri at Warrensburg and an MBA from Florida Tech at Melbourne. He is a graduate of the United States Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, as well as the Defense Systems Management College Advanced Program Managers course at Fort Belvoir, Virginia. David is the editor of the textbook Examining War and Conflict Around the World and the author of the esteemed biography of Bill Verdon, A Life in Baseball. He is currently pursuing a biography on Elwyn Preacher Rowe, the former great Brooklyn Dodger pitcher from West Plains, Missouri. At this time, David, I would like you to come forward, and also the daughter of Bill and Shirley Verdon, and Lisa, I'm sorry. So Lisa is going to come up, as well as Linda. Thank you.
I don't know what to say for that, other than thank you very much for this honor and this award. It's such a privilege to receive this Ella Dickey Literacy Award with so many esteemed recipients. And I want to thank my wife. I have the best wife in the world. She's allowing me to enjoy the opportunity to sit between Tina Cole and Cynthia Pepper. It's been a good day. I told Cynthia earlier she's my favorite kissing cousin. And Tina already knows from yesterday how I feel about her and my three sons. And so it's such an honor to be here. And I tell you, Kathy and I, my wife sitting over here, we fell in love with the Verdon family. Bill and Shirley we just fell in love with them and their three daughters, Lisa and Linda and Debbie, who's not here. Lisa's husband, Kevin, sitting over there. We had some great friends come down from Western Missouri. Jan and Gayla Kobiaka came down to be with us today, and we're just so honored. This story about Bill Verdon, to me, had to be told. And it was so well said about the author not doing it for the money, and you're doing it to serve others is what you're doing. And I'd like to think that that's what I've done. But I didn't do it alone. It took the Verdon family, it took my wife, it took a whole plethora of friends to come around me because I was way in over my head on this project. But I enjoyed every minute of it, and I just love this family so much, and I just hope it pays honor to his legacy. And this book is as much about his wife, Shirley, who we, like was said earlier by Tim, we lost her just a few weeks ago, as it was about her loving husband, her favorite baseball player. So thank you again for the award.
I truly believe that Shirley Verdon would have made a great baseball manager herself. She really knew her. Yeah. She knew her baseball, that's for sure. And a great baseball historian as well. To speak about our next honoree, we call forward good cherry blossom friend and presidential historian Mary Aker.
Boy, I didn't have any idea what a blessing this was going to be to meet Michael Hingson. His book is called Thunderdog, and everybody will know him as the blind man who came down from the 78th floor of the North Tower with his guide dog and calmed people down as he went down and came down safely. And that book is just amazing. It's not just about coming down those stairs, but about how somebody can overcome everything. I'll just tell you a bit about him. He was born premature. They put him in an incubator with pure oxygen, and it made him blind. But his parents were most amazing. They would not allow him to be disabled. They mainstreamed him when there was no mainstreaming. And they let him learn how to ride a bike. They let him drive a car. They made him go to a regular school. He had wonderful teachers. Teacher taught him how geometry. He loved physics, and he mastered it in physics. He's got a master degree in physics and also in teaching. I had to, after I read his book, I came upstairs where my daughter was, and I said, listen to this. And if you knew my daughter and me, know we're absolute dog freaks. So here I'm reading this story to Kathy, and she'd say, more, more, more. And so anyway, you'll know more about him. I get to interview him tomorrow, which is the greatest honor. But today we want to give him this award for Thunderdog. And also tomorrow we'll talk more about his inspiration. Everywhere he speaks, he inspires us to be more, to greater heights, to do more with our lives. And so, dear Mike, we'd love to present this award to you. And you know what else he does? He sometimes takes the harness off so I can love on Alamo. All right, you want to come up? My daughter texted me this morning and said, tell Alamo I'm sending a big sloppy kiss.
My goodness. Well, thank you, Mary. I am honored and not sure what to say, so let me try. I believe that for the past many number of years, I've lived my life in the philosophy of who would have ever thought. I never thought I would survive being in the World Trade Center. I never thought I would be in an emergency situation like that. I never thought I would go off and write a book, but through circumstances it happened. It started in 2002 when at the AKC Eukanuba Grand National Championship Dog Show in Orlando, I met George Berger, who was the publisher of the AKC Gazette, and George said, you ought to write a book about your story. I said, why? Well, people would be interested. Well, they were interested right from the outset. The day after September 11th, I contacted the folks at Guide Dogs for the Blind, and among other people spoke, and Guide Dogs for the Blind is where I've received all of my guide dogs. And among others, I spoke with a woman named Joanne Ritter, who was their public information director. And Joanne said, do you mind if I put out a little story about you? And clearly she saw what was going to happen. Well, so that was a Wednesday, and by Thursday, I was receiving calls from the media to tell my story. And Joanne had also said, you know, I'll bet somebody will want you on TV. What TV show do you want to be on first? Well, I wasn't thinking, right? So I just said, oh, Larry King Live. Friday, September 14th, was the first of 5 interviews on Larry King Live. And then the media storm really began, but also people started calling and asking if I would come and tell my story. They wanted to hire me to talk about the lessons we should learn from September 11th and other things. And my wife and I, Karen, my wife, who also I should say, was a person with a so-called disability. We're going to talk about disabilities more tomorrow, folks, because disability does not mean lack of ability, but we won't go into that today. There isn't time. But Karen and I talked, and we decided that if talking about September 11th would help people move on, if talking about blindness and guide dogs would help people realize that blindness isn't the problem, it's attitudes, and that guide dogs don't lead blind people, they guide, and there's a whole story there, then it was worth doing. Well, a couple of weeks after September 11th, I received a call from someone who said, would you please come to be part of a church service we're going to hold for people who we lost on September 11th? And I said, sure. I have no problem doing that. And I was used to being in front of people, as I tell people, as the Mid-Atlantic Region sales manager for a Fortune 500 computer company, I was used to being on any given day in front of boards of directors or IT people and so on. Well, anyway, this guy asked if I would come, and I said, sure. And then I said, how many people are going to be at this service? 6,000. And that was my first public speech. Well, anyway, so the media got the story and so on because of Joanne. And the next year when George Berger suggested I should write a book, I said, well, okay. So I started making notes. And after about 7 years, I had 1.2 megabytes of Microsoft Word documents with all sorts of notes. And then I happened to connect with a woman named Susie Flory who wanted to write a book and was writing a book called Dog Tales. And she asked if I would tell my story for Roselle, my guide dog at the time, who was with me in the World Trade Center. And after I told her my story, there was a pause, and she said, you should write your own book. And I told her, well, I've had some challenges with that. She said, I want to help. Well, that was where the rest of the story began. And in in August of 2011, Thunderdog was published. The week after it was published, we were sitting in our office, or actually I was sitting at home, and the people from the team at Thomas Nelson who published the book called and said, we've got to tell you something, but you need to sit down for it. And I said, well, Karen's sitting down. Karen's in a wheelchair, right? Karen's sitting down. And they said, well, but you have to as well. I said, you sure? And they said, yeah. They were sounding all down and all that. And I went, oh, this sounds suspicious. Anyway, I was sitting actually, and I said, okay, I'm sitting down, and the next word out of their mouth were, in its first week out, Thunderdog was a bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list. And it is still not on the bestseller list, but it is still selling. I wish we had copies of it here, but Thomas Nelson was absorbed by HarperCollins, and they messed up and they didn't send us books. So you'll have to buy it elsewhere somehow. And I guess I'll just have to come back next year so that we can autograph those books. And I would love that. I will tell you, though, very quickly, during the pandemic, I realized that I had gotten out of the World Trade Center and I got out not being overly nervous. And there were reasons for that, and we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. But the bottom line was that I had not ever tried to teach people how they could live a life not being overwhelmed, or as I put it, blinded by fear. So I began writing another book. And that book was picked up by a publisher, and the book is entitled Live Like a Guide Dog, True Stories from a Blind Man and His Dogs About Being Brave, Overcoming Adversity, and Walking in Faith. And it's a book that talks about lessons I've learned from all of my dogs and my wife's service dog, Fantasia, who passed away in 2019, and Karen, unfortunately, passed away in late 2022. But it is a book to tell you how you can learn not to be overwhelmed or blinded by fear, but rather you can use fear as a powerful tool to help you. We do have bookmarks talking about Live Like a Guide Dog at the table, and I'll be there again tomorrow. And anyone who wants a bookmark, come pick one up and I'll sign it. And you can even use a QR code on the bookmark to pre-order a book, which we hope you'll all do. But tomorrow afternoon, we do get to talk about Thunderdog, and I get it. And Live Like a Guide Dog. Thank you, God. But I'm so honored. I still go back to who would have ever thought? I never thought I would be an author. I never thought I would be a public speaker. If anybody needs a keynote speaker, I'm looking for opportunities because now that Karen has passed, I can travel again. And it's fun being able to talk with people and educate people and inspire people. And I want to continue to do that in my life. And so I get to do that with Alamo going with me, and our cat Stitch stays home, and she's cared for. But I want to thank you all. It's such an honor to be here, and I know I've talked a lot, but I hope that I get a chance to interact with all of you and do more of this in the future.
Thank you.
Applause for both of our guests. Our final honoree today is also making his first visit to Marshfield. And when it was first suggested that Sean Kinney be invited to be a guest at the festival, I heard the same response from so many people who call him friend. What a wonderful, delightful, and engaging person he is. And just in our few brief interactions in person, I can see that light as he visits with people. It's always a gift, I think, when those that we have come to know on the screen take the time to write of their experiences. It gives so much insight to the making of classic pictures or movies. It also gives great insight to their fellow colleagues and their actors, and we learn a lot as historians about the personalities and the details. And in Sean's book, Captain Pike Found Alive, he really goes on an odyssey of this iconic character of the original Star Trek television series. How many of you were fans? Of course, and some of you are raising both your hands. Many of you will remember he played Captain Pike and Lieutenant DePaul on the original series. And in his book, he shares his memories of the early days of the making on the set of the Star Trek, or of the Enterprise. His memoir details an exciting life in Hollywood as a noted actor in the 60s and in the 70s. What an interesting time to find yourself in Hollywood. He's worked with so many different people, and he's made himself available to fans all over to speak of his experience and his career. We're honored today to have him in Marshfield and for this weekend, and hope he'll be making many returns back. But without further ado, if you would join me in welcoming him to the stage.
God bless you. Anyway, I must say there's many adventures on Star Trek, but my adventure was just getting the job on the show that I knew nothing about. I'll make this brief as I can. But I was in a play one night, and a lady stopped me backstage after I finished playing the lead in the play for one night because the actor was doing a Gunsmoke. And I knew all the lines because I was the sound man, and I was just hoping to get a part in the play. And she said, I saw you up on stage, you looked really good. And I said, oh, well, it was my first night playing this. Oh, well, I'm Mitzi McGregor, and I want to introduce you to a man over at Paramount. I said, oh, what's his name? And she says, Gene Roddenberry. Oh, I don't know his name. And she says, oh, you'll know who he is when you meet him. So the next week I go and meet Gene Roddenberry, and he walks up to me, and he has a picture of Jeffrey Hunter, and he just puts it up near my face, and he says, it's a match. Okay, sit down. And Gene Roddenberry was a man that later on I knew him for a few years afterwards. He had, just to tell you, this man was one of the bravest men. If anybody could have been in James Bond, it would have been him. He was an LA policeman. He was a pilot during World War II. He got shot down twice. It goes on and on and on about Gene Roddenberry. But to know that I was getting chosen to play this part, that they were looking for this person, and I just loved being on the show, but I couldn't talk. They taped me all up, and then it made me a cripple, and I was on the show, and I was listening to everybody behind me because I'm in a wheelchair. I'm only 24 years old, trying to act like I'm 60-something years old. They dyed my hair white, and it was just like something I never imagined I would be as an actor. And so this was how I entered into Star Trek. And so he put me in the next year as another character, and Gene kept on wondering where I was going to go, and he would call up people and say, you got to use this guy, he's good and everything. And then I'm working on the same kind of character on Get Smart. And then I worked on Police Story. My dad was a cop. So there must be something in your consciousness or in yourself that makes you appeal to those kind of jobs. So it was an amazing, amazing time at that time, because you actually met people, casting directors. Now it's all done on the, on the web. You send your picture in, but they would look at you, walk around you. And so that time, like Reverend Inman said, the 60s and the 70s, was really the beginning of real adventure television, because it went from black and white to color. And I remember Gene telling me, he said, well, I did a show called I forget the name of it, but it was about a person in the Marine Corps. And I met Gary Lockwood later, and Gary Lockwood had been in that show. Well, Gary helped sell this show in color. So Gene was pushing the envelope by saying, I'm going to do a space show in color. Well, no, you don't need that. We've got all these other shows in black and white. He says, no, this has got to be color. So I just want you to know that this was an event that was going on that I didn't realize until years later, that this was the catalyst for the entire stuff you're watching today on television. And just to end this off on this character, I go to the Star Trek show, and they're every year, and there's going to be 3 this year in Vegas. I go to the show, and there's a young man, younger than me, and he's playing my character from the first character, Captain Pike. And that's up in Toronto. They're filming it, and it's called Strange New Worlds. So this Gene, he's up in heaven, I know he is. He's saying, see, I told you this is going to go on and on and on and on. And it was an honor being that first captain, Captain Pike. I thank Reverend Inman, and I thank you all for being supporters of that show and the future shows that are going to happen. Thank you so much for having me here. But I want you to know that a lot of people in the Star Trek world were very spiritual, and God is in charge of this whole new Hollywood, because here's what happened. Hollywood got to be so decadent recently that of a lot of our actors, friends, Marky Wahlberg and Mel Gibson and everything, we're all moving to Vegas. I just moved to Vegas last week. And we're going to have a new Hollywood, but it's going to be called Holywood. We're taking out the L. Seriously, we're taking out the L, one of the L's. It's going to be Holywood. And so wait till you see in the next 5 to 10 years what's going to be produced. Not the stuff that you see on the other channels, Hack and Slash and Murder and Mayhem. No, this is going to be uplifting. I am feeling this because God is telling me this. He's in charge. Remember how they said when Eisenhower went to, and they were doing the dollar bill, and he says, oh, no, we have to put in God we trust on this. And that's what we're doing now. In Hollywood, Holywood, it's in God we trust.
Now, I know you felt the very same way about him that I did upon meeting him, right? What did I say when I was encouraged to invite him? That he was engaging and enlightening and a contagious spirit. There you go. Today we've honored some outstanding authors, some legendary people who have taken the time to tell their stories. When I was a reporter for many years at the Marshfield newspaper, my favorite assignment was to write personal interest stories. And I always felt everyone had a story, whether they wanted to tell it or not. And often, people who felt that they didn't have that great of story were some of the most interesting stories to collect. Remember that, because out here in these seats might be future authors, people who maybe never dreamed of telling their story. But every day when we read an obituary, we read another page of history that we've lost. These authors have taken their time and their talents to record for history remarkable tales of survival, of courage, of heroism, of strength, and of determination. And I hope that inspires some of you as we honor those outstanding contributions to the Ella Dickey Literacy Award. What a great class of honorees. Give them a round of applause. I would like to ask the former recipients if they would come up for a group picture with the current honorees, and then we'll take a class picture just of the new honorees, and we'll set up for our next presentation.